true. Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go.
In 2007, when I was 17 years old, I was living with a good friend of mine that I went to school with. And one day when we were not home, we had taken the dogs to the vet, and his house burned down, burned to the ground. And we weren't there, so it was like kind of a good thing, but the insurance company paid for us all to move into this, like it was a nice house. It was like 17 years old, but it was built at the edge of town, kind of near this like farming like field area in South Carolina. I want to say this was August when the house burned, and so we lived in this house for like 3 months, and weird things started happening that at the time they were happening we didn't pick up on. Like there was this alarm system on the house, and it would sometimes in the middle of the night would go off. It had like a door alarm. It wasn't like connected to anything, like it wasn't active, but it would still like chime when the doors was opened. And one night we woke up to like the alarm just going off like crazy, and we could not get it to turn off. Like it would not turn off, and finally after a couple hours it like turned off. It was so loud, I remember. And we're like, that's weird, like, but didn't really think anything of it. So fast forward to Halloween night of all nights, 2007. This is back when you still had like computer rooms kind of, and so the computer was in the den. I was like on the computer, and I hear my friend upstairs, and he's calling. He's like, "What? Like, what do you want?" Like, da da da, like going off. And finally he comes downstairs and he's like, "Are you calling me?" And I said, "No, like, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, the house number is calling my cell phone." I was like, "It's not me." And he said, "Well, it's not my mama. She's upstairs, and she's handicapped, by the way, so it's just an important part of the story, so she can't really get around." And we're like, "No, it's not me." So he was like, "Okay, well, it keeps calling." So he goes back upstairs. A few minutes later, he comes running downstairs, and he's like, "Look, like, the house number is calling my cell phone." And you answer the phone and immediately hang up. We're like, that's weird. Like, okay, like, and it keeps doing this, and we're like, this is weird. Like, this is like the house number kept calling his cell phone. So later that night, we're like upstairs and we hear this noise, and we go into the bathroom, and all the water, like all the sinks were on, and all the drawers in the bathroom were open. Like all the doors and everything were just opened. So we freak out, and we all go into his mom's room. And so at this time we're like, we do like, I can't remember, like star 69 or star whatever, where you can call the last number from the house, like out. So we're doing that on the house phone, and we call out, and every time we did it, it wouldn't call his cell phone. It would call the last number out that was called from the house number. So we ended up going to bed, and my friend's dating this girl at the time, and her brother, and he calls her the next day and tells her about it, and she comes over, and they're like, "Oh, this is, we're in a haunted house, like, we're kind of like joking about the whole thing at this point." So later that night, on the second night 2, we go get Chinese food. I remember we went and got Chinese food, and we're on the way back home, like driving down the road that this house is on, and as we're driving down the road, we see his mom's car going in the opposite direction. So we turn around and we go catch up with him. And we're like, "What are y'all doing?" And his mom is like, the power went out in the house, like, but only on the first floor. And they were inside the house, and the power went out, and it freaked them out, so they just left. So we drive back to the house, and sure enough, we get there, and the power is out on the first floor, but is on the second floor. So there's a front door and like a staircase that goes upstairs, and my friend's room was up there. So we run into the house, run up the stairs, and go get his phone. He had left it charging, and sure enough, while we were gone, he had all these missed calls from the house number. So shortly after, the phone rings again from the house number, and we answer, and this time, instead of hanging up immediately, there's just like a silence. Deafening. And then it hangs up. So we're all scared. We all sleep in the same room that night. Wake up the next day, and this time on day 3, the phone starts ringing like earlier in the day. And we had all stayed, like my friend's girlfriend and her brother had stayed, and so her brother Tucker was like, I'm going to answer it next time it calls us. So phone starts ringing, and he answers it. And I'm not shitting you. He just like bursts into tears. And we're like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And he was like, it made a noise. It made a noise. So he ends up leaving, the girlfriend ends up leaving, and at this point it's just me, my friend, and his mom in the house. And I'm on the computer, and all of a sudden I hear my friend like screaming, like a blood curdling scream. And before I can even get up, he's like in the room with me, and he said, I heard what Tucker heard. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what did you hear? He said, it made this noise. Like, he said, I was on the phone and I was talking to my girlfriend and I got a call. So I switched over and not realizing, and it was a house number. And he said, when it calls next, you have to answer it. And I'm like, okay, like, I'll answer it. So like, it must have been like 45 minutes later, the phone rings. And it's the house number. And I remember it had this specific ringtone that the house number had. So when you'd hear that sound, it was just like creepy. So it rings, and I answered it. Put my ear up to the phone, and I say, hello? And there's no sound, no nothing. And I say, hello? And then all of a sudden, it makes this sound like, to this day, I've never heard anything like it. It didn't sound like a person, but it sounded like it was like a low growl, and it just got louder and louder and louder, but when I heard it, like, I immediately, like, just tears started coming down my face, and every hair stood up, and I had to go sit down. Like, it, like, took my breath away. It was so scary. Meanwhile, as this is happening, like, those drawers in the bathroom and the sink keep opening. Like, every time we go up there, we keep opening. And there's this closet door that just keeps opening. Like, it's an attic door that was in the room that I actually slept in, which I don't think I ever slept in that room again during this. But that night, you know, my friend is, like, telling his brother about this. And he, like, comes over and he's like, one of y'all is doing this, like, one of you is messing with it, like, whatever. So we're like, well, we're going to do, like, a seance, like, not a seance, but like a thing to get this whatever out of the house. So we buy the stuff, we light the candles, we're, like, saying the prayer in each room, and we're putting salt bags over the door, and we're downstairs. We did upstairs first, and then we go downstairs, and as we're downstairs, my friend goes upstairs, and he just starts screaming again, like I'd never heard this before from him, like 2 times in one day. And he's like, who did this? Who did this? And so we all run upstairs and look. And we go into the bathroom, and there's shaving cream sprayed all over the mirror, all over the Bible that we had left in there. And that was when we were like, nobody would do that. Like, it was all over the Bible. And we were like, what the hell? Like, and so that night, stuff, like, just got real. Like, basically the phone calls started getting, like, a much more, like, frequent. We call my friend's brother to come over, and we're like, you've got to help us, like, something's going on, like, on. He's like, I don't believe that, like, one of y'all is doing this. And so he comes over, and he's standing in the kitchen, and he's, like, in the same breath as he's saying, like, one of y'all is doing this, all of a sudden we hear this loud noise, and across the room, a can, like a soda can, flies down the stairs, hits the floor, and slides in the other direction. And he turned around and he started begging his mama, please leave this house. Please leave this house. And a lot of other shit happened after that. So last year I told this story, and then I kind of disappeared. I got a little overwhelmed by people actually wanting to know about this. And I also have another account, so I just kind of hung out over there. But there was a part of the story that I left out. It's such a long story, and even for a 10-minute TikTok, it was hard to get it all in there. So, it was a pretty significant part of the story, which was that me and my friend and his mom were at the house. We were all alone. And I think it was after my friend had answered the phone, and maybe after I had heard as well, but he hears this noise. So he's like, he calls my name, and I get up and I'm coming to him, and he's coming from the kitchen, and we stop in front of the stairway, and he goes to say something. I don't even remember what, but I looked down and I didn't have any shoes on, and I put my foot on the first step of the stairs, which was carpeted, and all this water gushed out of it. And I was like, okay, what? So we start making our way up the stairway, and water is just gushing from the walls, just coming out of the walls. We're like, what the hell is that? And so we go into the bathroom, and the sink's open, or the sink is on, and all the drawers are open, all that stuff again. But the weird thing about the water was, we're like, how are we going to clean this up? It just dried up in maybe 10 minutes. It was just gone. And then it happened again later, and the same thing happened. It just dried up. That was one of the strangest parts. We also took pictures of all of this, and they mysteriously got deleted. So, I don't know what was going on in this house, but it was definitely bad vibes. So this is October, November of 2007. We moved there in August, I guess, and then we basically moved out around February or early March. And we had to stay there. It sucked. We slept in one room for probably 6 weeks, and then we got a little braver. Things kind of calmed down. We read that the more energy you put into it, the more, the worse it would get. So we just, ignored it when it happened. And so, but there were several instances where, a shadow came down the stairs, and they had this dog at the time, and the dog, was, terrified in this house, would not leave my friend's mom. And one day, this dark shadow came down the stairs, looked, and this was my friend's mom who saw this, and then the TV turned off. But shortly after we moved, me and my friend we were at this other house, and I don't know if it was related, it was just around the same time, and it felt eerily similar, but we were getting out of the car at his house that he had moved back into, and as we were getting out of the car, we both kind of were talking, and we stopped. Both of us are silent for a minute, and then all of a sudden ahead of us in the bush, there was this little girl singing. It sounded like a nursery rhyme, and we both turned and looked at each other and just booked it, ran inside, and we're like, what the fuck was that? It was really scary.
Alright. Everyone's talking about their vampire story, so I'm gonna tell mine. I don't really talk about it because people think I'm fucking crazy. And I am also someone who grew up, I wasn't raised in Louisiana, but I grew up in Nola. Hardcore. I have Cajun friends, Cajun family. I was a spicy dancer for a really long time and always went down to Nola to get an extra bag. And as a spicy dancer, I traveled all over the US. I danced in Las Vegas, Nola, NYC, LA, anywhere that had a insane nightlife, like Miami, stuff like that. And I'm also a lover of places with a very rich history and rich nightlife. So Nola was just home for me, you know? Like, anyway, so one of these days that we decide to go and travel, I have a girl group that I traveled with, and it was myself, Fox, that's what the girls knew me as, Hennessy, Brooklyn, and Tia. And we buddy systemed. We never left without at least one other friend. If we went out, it was a group of all of us, you know, like going out to eat or whatever. We never went out by ourselves, alone. One night, we're in Nola, and we decided that that was where we wanted to go. And if you know New Orleans, you know that it has a very, very rich history of the occult and strange things happening that can't easily be explained. And I know from my childhood and the things that I've seen that everyone kind of just brushed under the rug and was like, no, you didn't. Vampires, witches, werewolves, mermaids, fairies, there's a reason why our ancestors were talking about them way before the Bible was even made. And I'm a firm believer that while they may not be what we've read, they exist. And what I'm about to tell you only confirmed to me that these things exist. We just don't know about it yet. Or maybe they don't want us to know. Anyway, our plan was to be there for 2 weeks. And the first, I want to say maybe 3 days, we had already hit our goal with money. So we decided we were going to take like a 2-day, we were going to actually enjoy our vacation. We weren't going to work. Nola has quite a few alternative or goth bars, speakeasy, pubs. There's also a lot of hidden speakeasies and pubs in the underground or wherever. I currently live in Oklahoma City. Same thing here. Anyway, so we're at this club, and I, for the life of me, really can't remember what this club was. But I do remember that we were being harassed by a particularly fedora-wearing dude. And he grabs our friend Tia by the arm, and, you know, we're immediately like, whoa, hold on, big boy. But this guy comes over, and he kind of just, like, puts himself in between them and kind of shoos the, and, like, he doesn't say anything to this guy. He just looks at him. And the guy shuts up, doesn't even, like, try to fight him or rebuttal or nothing. He just walks away. I didn't necessarily think it was a little weird at the time, you know, because I was like, well, obviously, like, that guy could have gotten his ass kicked by our savior over here, you know. But when I looked at our savior or whatever, our guy, our knight in shining armor for the day, he was so beautiful, it was unsettling. Like, do you get what I mean? Like, he didn't look real. He didn't look human. He was so pretty. He didn't look human. And humans don't look like that, man. Like, there was something about him when I was looking at him that just hit my uncanny valley. Like, he looks human, but that's not human. Like, you know, the lady on the flight, that motherfucker back there is not real. That's how I felt. Now, granted, this was years ago, but, like, when that video went viral, I felt her, because I went through that shit. And I immediately was looking at my friends like, y'all see this shit too, right? Like, I'm not the only one. His eyes were a color of green that I had never seen before. Like, they were, like, it was, like, hypnotic. Like, when you looked in his eyes, it was like, yeah, keep looking at me. Like, it was almost like you could hear his voice in your head, and it was weird. And I'm autistic, so I already don't like looking people in the eyes, but that dude made me fucking uncomfortable. Every time I looked in his eyes, I could hear his voice in the back of my head. So I'm over here shaking. I am tense. I do not want to be here. I want to leave. The look that this guy gave me when I was like, I'm ready to leave. Like, I thought it in my head, and then he looked at me, and I looked at him, and we shared a moment. And in the back of my head, I heard, no, you don't. And I straight up, like, if you've seen the video of the lady talking about how she gave a vampire a lift drive, and she felt like honey, like, drifting over her, like a sense of like everything's gonna be okay, kind of, like I'm not looking for you kind of thing. That's what I felt too. Like, just this weird warm sensation just running down my, like, from the top of my head down to my feet. Just this weird warm sensation of like, stop freaking out. You're gonna make this harder on everybody if you don't stop freaking out. So at this point, I calmed down because I've watched enough true crime docs to know that panicking's not going to get anybody anywhere. I start devising a fucking plan, because in my mind, I'm not really thinking this dude's a vampire at this point. I'm really just thinking this motherfucker is going to kill us. Long story short, by the end of the night, he has convinced all four of us to go to this hidden speakeasy. Everyone else is fine with this. Like, oh yeah, let's go somewhere for people like us, is what this guy says. And all the girls are fucking down for it. They're ready to fucking go. They grab their purses. I'm like, we are going to get unalived. But we go. We go, and Tia goes missing at some point. We don't know where she's at. The guy that brought us here is also gone, and last we saw, he was with her. So already I'm freaking out. And I take a look around the room, and I notice that, because I hadn't up until this point, because I was so focused on like trying to figure out how to get me and my girls out of this situation. I look around the room and I notice half of the people in here are human. The other half don't fucking look human. They don't look human. They look exactly like the motherfucker that brought us here. And now I'm starting to wonder, okay, we're in a fucking, like, coven of cryptids. I pull Brooklyn aside. I'm like, we need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm almost positive that we have walked into some supernatural shit that we are not ready to fucking deal with. Like, our mortal brains cannot comprehend this shit. She goes and finds Tia. She's making out with the guy that brought us here in the corner. And she decides that she's going to spend the night with him. We do our best to try to dissuade her from this. He convinces us, rather easily, might I add. He means no harm to her. He just wants to have a little fun. We're shitty friends because we let her do it. Because we felt convinced that he wasn't going to do anything to her. I didn't. Everyone else did. But she comes home. The next day, she comes back to our apartment, or hotel room, whatever. Literally the next day, he gets her an Uber, brings, like, she's here, she's fine. This bitch is drained. Like, straight up, no color in her face. She sleeps for 2 whole ass days. Later, after we get home and stuff, she mentions that she might see him again, but she wasn't really sure that she liked it because he kept biting her. And then she slept for 2 days? Bro, that was a fucking vampire, and you can't convince me otherwise. You just can't. You just can't.
Wait, guys, I have to do this right now, because I can't stop crying. Look at my hand. Wait, there's no way I could kid that. There's no way. You will not believe what's just happened. And I absolutely, if anybody says this is fake, I don't even care at this point. Something's just happened that I can't explain. I cannot explain. Wait, I need to get this out, right, because this is... So, I came to my nan's grave. I'll just cover the picture. Oh, you can't, it doesn't... I came to my nan's grave, right? It doesn't matter anyway. And, to talk to her, because I've not visited her in ages. And then I thought I'd call my mum, her daughter, because she'll want to, like, speak to her maybe, like, on the FaceTime. And then when I called my mum went, why did you just call me? I said, what? She went, a message came in my head that I had to hold on to speak to you, because I was going to leave my phone downstairs while I went for a nap. So I went, Mum, look. And I just turned the camera around and showed her my nan's grave, because I've not been here for 3 years. And she went, oh my God. I said, I told Nan, make sure Mum answers this call as a joke. And my mum got the message. And not only that, you won't believe it, as I turned the camera around to show my mum that there was, I can't actually, I turned the camera around to show my mum that I'd left a little figure of Poppy's on the grave to say, Nan, I know you'd never met Poppy, but you'd love to meet her. And I swear on her grave, because she's right here, a robin with the most red robin redbreast landed on the grave. No one else's. And then it sat on the branch above, just there, and looked down at me. And I fell to the ground, crying to my mum. I couldn't breathe. I went, oh my God. Because I don't know if this is right. I'm going to Google it after this, but I needed to tell you guys. Does a robin mean like a spirit? I can't believe this, because with everything going on, I just keep thinking, like, I need to, like, go and seek some guidance from my nan to make sure that everything's okay and there's no harmful spirits. I can't believe a robin. I can't stop shaking. My mum's just sent me a message. Nan will always look after you. It's just come down at the top of the screen. I'll show you the little gift. I left that little gift for her from Poppy. Oh my God, guys. That is just, I need comments on this video to tell me what that means. Because I've never ever in my life experienced anything like that. Like the message to my mum to answer the phone. The robin's back. Oh my God, the robin's back and it's just staring at me. Oh my God.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
Damn, Susie, that's crazy. You know what else is crazy? When I was like 13 years old, me and my sister shared a room, and one day I woke up in the middle of the night and she was sitting at the edge of her bed looking out the window. I thought kind of creepy. I said, what are you doing? She said, shh, come over here. So I go over there, go to the window, sit next to her. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, wait and watch. So she's looking out our window. We're peeking out of our blinds. I'm looking. I'm like, what is going to happen? All of a sudden, it's 3 a.m. All of a sudden, a little boy, maybe 4, 5 years old, runs down the street in his pajamas. Just runs down the street past our house. And I looked at her and I said, is that a kid? She said, yes. And she's like, but wait. So I wait, and we're still peeking out the window. Then, little boy runs back, and you can hear his running, and just goes out of sight both ways. And he's doing that, and I was like, what is happening? And she's like, he has been doing that for the last, 10 minutes. She got woken up by his little pitter-patter running, because we would sleep with our window open. We were on the second floor. We'd sleep with our window open, and she heard him. So she's been watching him. And I was like, that's creepy as hell. It's 3 a.m. Why is this kid by himself? She's like, I don't know, but grab your camera. So I said, okay. And we were feeling weird. It was weird. I've been filming my life since I was 8 years old. So I had cameras all around. So I grabbed my camera and we stick my little camera lens, like the little point and shoot. We stick it through the blinds. You know, we're open the blinds. Stick it through. Okay. This little boy is running. I click record. The second I click record, this little boy stops in the middle of the street, running, he stops, middle of the street, and turns, and looks directly at us in the window. He just stops, turns, and looks up, and we make eye contact, and me and my sister just fling off the bed. We jump out. We're like, what just happened? That was creepy. What? Spring up. She's like, oh my gosh, did you get that? And I was like, I think so. I look at my camera. It's off. My camera's off. She goes, what do you mean it's off? I said, I don't know. It won't turn on. It's just not turning on. She says, well, is it dead? I said, no, it was fully charged. We look out the window. The little boy's gone. We look at my camera again. After a few minutes, it turns back on. There was nothing there. I didn't get it. Even though I clicked record and I saw the second I clicked that button, he turned and looked right at us. And, yeah, pretty sure we saw a little ghost boy. I mean, our childhood home was haunted and we saw other things, so. Oh, sorry, but yeah, Susie, damn your pesto story. That's crazy.
The little ghost boy that my sister and I saw, the thing about him, we never saw him specifically that ghost boy again. I did see other children ghosts and experienced other ghostly things that came from what I felt like were kids. But when it came to actually physically seeing the boy in the pajamas that I saw from the video that's pinned to my profile, no, I never saw that specific ghost boy ever again. I have seen other things and I have run into different things, but I don't know if that ghost was necessarily attached to the home. It could have just been one lingering outside, or whatever the situation was. There were ghosts that were attached to the home that were there like for years, that became regular for us, if that makes sense. But I don't think the ghost boy was specifically tied to the childhood home that I grew up in that was haunted, if that makes sense. So ghost boy, it was that one encounter where we saw him, creepy, all that happened, tried to capture him on camera and it didn't. But yeah. Now there's also a ghost that's like attached to me, but that's a different story. And I got told that a while ago. But anyways, yeah.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first. When I was 8.
So I was babysitting for the first time this little girl. She's 3 years old. And it was going to be at night because her mom works nights. So I'd be with her till like 2 a.m. And her mom told me, she's not sleeping lately. I don't know what's going on. She won't go in her room. She won't lay down. Whatever you need to do to get her to sleep, just try. I said, all right, we'll figure it out. So it was late, and there was no sign of her wanting to go in her room. I said, let's go lay down in your room. You know, it was 11. I think 11:30. So let's go lay down in your room. She goes, no. I said, why? And she goes, the baby's crying. And I said, I have no idea. You know, I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe it was like a TV show she was talking about. And I said, no, let's go lay down in your room. So we went in her room, and she goes, the baby's crying. And so at this point, I'm like, what baby? What baby? And she pointed up to the ceiling, at the corner of the ceiling, and she said, right there. He's crying. He's sad. She said, I don't want him to cry. And I was like, I am freaked out. So, first thing that happened. And I said, okay, let's leave. Let's go to your mom's room. So we went to her mom's room. And she said, the tall man's in here. And I, full body goosebumps. I said, what tall man? Where? And she pointed to her closet, and she goes, he lives there. Tall man. And I said, we're not staying in here. We're going into the living room. So we sat down in the living room, and there's a couch. Behind me is a big window. So I think I had the news on. I don't know what I was watching. She's sitting there, and she stood up and looked behind me and screamed. She screamed, and I was so like, I like thought someone was outside. So I looked. I swear to God, I saw the tallest shadow. It was like a shadow figure, tall. And it looked like it just swooped past the window. And it looked like he was wearing a wide-brimmed hat. And I was so freaked out. And she said, Hatman, as soon as it happened. Hatman. And my instinct is to run outside, but I went outside. So I didn't run outside. And so I honestly think I just stayed in the kitchen. I was like in the kitchen. And I was like, your mom's going to be home soon. I'm just going to stay here, okay? And the mom got home, and I was like, yeah, she's not sleeping. I got to go. I was so scared. So scared. I never went back. They never asked me to come back. I never went back, and they moved shortly after. We lost contact, so I don't know how they're doing. I hope they're okay. But that was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. Talking about it now gives me tears in my eyes because it just freaks me out so bad.
With this family for like 4 months, nothing had really happened, but I always got kind of an uneasy feeling about the unfinished part of the basement, which was on, we'll say, the west side of the house. They had asked me if I would house sit for them and dog sit for them while they went on a vacation, for like your boyfriend can come and stay too. So the first day, to bring our stuff up to the bedroom, and as we're coming back down the stairs, I hear the hallway linen closet open, and I turn around to my boyfriend because I'm looking through their stuff already. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, you just opened the linen closet. I heard it open. but I know the sounds of the house. He's like, I didn't touch the linen closet. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And that first night, my boyfriend got really, really sick. Like ended up like throwing up. It was really strange. No idea if it was related or not, but that happened. Next day, we wake up and my boyfriend's like, did you move my coin change? I was like, what are you talking about? He had like thrown some of his change onto the nightstand and it was all stacked. And I was like, no, I did not do that. I'm getting like a little sussed out. And so that night it was like storming outside and we decided we were bored. We were going to go into the basement, which the finished part was like the kids' playroom, and started kind of playing with the toys. And all of a sudden 3 toys all go off at the same time. It was like 3 electronic toys. It was a train, a phone, and like this guitar with like buttons. My boyfriend hightails it up the stairs. I freeze because I don't know what to do. I run up, I shut the lights off, I close the basement, and I slide the lock. Go back upstairs to go to bed, and the coins are moved again. In the middle of the night that night, he thought he heard like the door opening to the bedroom, and he woke me up, and I was just like, oh, whatever. Like I was still in denial. Wake up in the morning, coins are moved again. Go downstairs, and my boyfriend's like, Leah, why would you leave the basement door open? And I'm like, I absolutely did not leave the basement door open. I locked it. I did the physical slide lock. He was like, come look, it's open. And it was open. When I'm not convinced my boyfriend's not messing with me and punking me, so I went back upstairs to the bedroom. I mess up the coin change. I come back downstairs. I made sure I went back upstairs first. The coins were moved. And that was the moment where like I knew, okay, this is like not my boyfriend messing with me. And that day, the door opens to the basement again. When we weren't around, we would go lock it again. And then that happened probably like 3 or 4 times. We went into that front room. Their dog, who would go in there normally, like this is totally out of character for their dog, barking at me. It was like freaking out. He was trying to get me out of there. And he actually went and herded me physically out of the room. There was one other time that the door opened and we just had like a really bad feeling about it. It's like, we need to get out of the house for a little bit. Like, so we went and like looked at puppies. We come back to the house and of course the basement door is open again. And time it was more open and I just had a bad gut feeling about it. Like it made me feel panicky. I shut the door kind of forcefully. It was like, I'm done. And I went to go outside. I come back inside and I look at the door expecting it to be open again at this point because that's what keeps happening. Every time we leave the room and then we come back, the stupid basement door is open again. Something is off, but the door is closed. The kids had those foam sticker letters with their names on the door. From one of the kids' names, the D and the I were brought down. And from the other kid's name, the E was brought down to spell what that spells. I'm not going to say it out loud on the snap, but yeah, that was when my boyfriend was like, I'm done. And he bolts outside, like to the car. He's like, we're leaving. That's it. We're done. All of our stuff. And like the dog, he's like, we'll deal with it later. I ended up like calling my boss and I was like, I'm so sorry, but I can't finish doing this. Went back, we got our stuff. I fed the dog. My boss was like, it's okay. I'll have my brother come. They come back from their vacation and I was talking to the mom about it a little. She's like, you look really tired. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't really slept much. She was like, actually, I'm really sorry. Like, talk to my husband about it and he's not comfortable with us talking about this anymore. And I was like, okay, I get it. You live here. Kids were like, I want to go to the basement to play. And I was like, I'm going to make lunch. You have fun. Older one, like, you know, the younger one's being mean to me, said, well, you know, the guitar, which was one of the toys that went off. And I was like, yeah. We're like, oh, like when the music plays, it's spooky. Objectively, not spooky, not at all. And I was like, okay. Well, when the younger sibling says the music goes on, I have to pretend that it makes me evil and evil's a bad word. And then we went to the park because I was done. Nothing ever happened again with the kids in the house. I worked there for like a year after this point somehow. Thanks for sticking along if you made it this far.